Welcome in, Slumpbusters. Busy NFL offseason to this point, and we've only been about 3-4 weeks into it already. Joining us today, we got Dan Kotnik of Lombardi's Bar podcast, which you can find on the Game on Wisconsin website. Plenty of drama in this offseason already so far. How have you been dealing with the stress levels, Dan?
I dealt with the stress levels perfectly by having a newborn child 2 days after the Packers were eliminated from the playoffs. So I decided to compound the regular drama that comes with a Packers offseason by also raising a new human life form. So my offseason has been crazy so far. Thankfully it's been a little bit of he's given me a little bit of a distraction from the usual stuff. And thank God this is light compared to what it was last year, what we had to deal with in the offseason last year. This is just a different brand, but a little less drama, I think, going into this year.
Well, first off, Dan, I guess congratulations. That's where we got to start this one. So, get that going here. I think we don't have a celebration drop, but I'm sure I can work in like some breaking news somewhere along that lines here for the pod viewers or pod listeners at home. All right. Well, my first question to you, I mean, like I said, it's not as bad of the drama, but there still is plenty of drama surrounding this team. I mean, Aaron Rodgers dropping 10 photo Instagram slides, just thanking everyone and basically saying, is he retiring? Is he not? I don't know. Maybe one of those two. One of the principles I kind of like live my life on, especially when I'm evaluating players in the NFL, is basically your talent has to outweigh your drama. And we, no doubt about it. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is talented. He's probably the most talented, and the trophies will back it up. But have we reached that point? Have we reached that point with Aaron where his drama is starting to cloud his talent?
Yeah, I mean, that's the $1 million question for every single Packer fan that's out there. I wrote some stuff back during the regular season, when he had his whole issue of vaccinated and immunized and all of that. And, for me personally, because I think it is a personal decision for every Packer fan when you talk about it. For me personally, I'm at the point where now I'm very much over the drama. In years past, when stuff came up, and even probably in the last offseason, you're at the point where it was kind of more of an anxious waiting of what's he going to do? How's this going to affect the team? What's the future going to look like? And now at this point, after the saga that went on last offseason, the drama we've had this whole regular season and even into the postseason, and then the game that ended the Packers season against the 49ers, where it was really, I think, one of the first times that a good portion of Packer fans saw a playoff performance from this Packers team that was a complete dud, basically. And a lot of them said it was squarely on Aaron Rodgers, as opposed to years past when it was, it was, they couldn't find a defense. They couldn't find an offensive line. They couldn't do this. They couldn't do this. That game really squarely was on the shoulders of Aaron Rodgers. And so for me personally, I'm at the point now where I trust what the front office has done with this team, how they've tried to set the team up for the future. And if he would like to come back and play, I'm not going to turn him away at this point. But if he decides to retire, then happy trails, partner. It was a beautiful ride, and I'm ready to make peace and move on with the future at this point.
Dan, I wanted to ask you about the Davante Adams situation, because it's a weird limbo that the Packers find themselves in right now, and that Davante Adams finds himself in, because he didn't sign the extension last year. He's going to get franchise tagged sometime in the next 5 to 6 days before the deadline passes. And it's almost as if Rodgers' situation will help dictate what his situation will be, because we kind of figure out what direction the Packers are going. So what do you make of the situation with Davante Adams, and what does the timeline look like for a resolution when it comes to Adams?
It's a tricky one. It really is, because if you look at the track record for this front office with Brian Gutekunst, every time that they've worked on making a deal for a player to keep them around, they've made it work. Last year, we saw talks with Aaron Jones get cut off early on in the season. Aaron Jones played out the rest of his season, and people thought this is the end. This is the last season we're going to see of Aaron Jones. And then in early part of the offseason, they re-signed him to another deal. And it feels like that's the precedent for Davante Adams, is that they want to work on a deal with him. They want to get a deal done. Like you said, they need to franchise tag him. I think that's part of the cap space gymnastics that they've been having to kind of work over the last couple of days. But I don't think necessarily that the Davante Adams contract directly affects what Aaron Rodgers will do, but I do think Aaron Rodgers' decision will affect what Davante Adams wants to do. I think there is a little bit of Aaron Rodgers wanting to wait and see what happens with Davante, but I think that if they come to just a gentleman understanding of Davante Adams is arguably the best wide receiver in the league, and he needs to go get his bag somewhere else. And I think they would probably come to that agreement. If Aaron Rodgers wants to come back for one more year, I think he does. I think it's just very tricky, though, this one. I talked about the president, but this one is just very unique because, like you said, the cap space is hard to get there before the new league year starts with the franchise tag. And then also, when you look at the rest of the team, they have the highest paid left tackle, they have the highest paid defensive lineman, and they have Jair Alexander, cornerback, who most likely will want to demand highest paid cornerback money. How long can you build a team with 3 or 4 of the highest paid people at their position and still be competitive around everywhere else? Davante Adams is on the back end of his career. He's definitely still in his prime, but he's trending downwards in terms of his time, not his talent, but his time. And so it really feels like this is a time for the Packers to cut their losses, cut bait, move on, develop more talent. It forces the rest of your team to step it up a little bit, some of that talent. And so for me, I think that we see either Davante Adams walks into free agency, or the Packers somehow franchise tag him in an attempt to hopefully get a new deal done. And if not, look to sign and trade, that kind of thing. I think most likely I would say he walks in free agency is probably the most likely scenario, just because there's just way too many gymnastics to figure out with his contract.
I'm glad you mentioned the cap gymnastics that the Packers are going to have to do. You talk about having to deal with all these highest paid players at their respective positions. And in the last week, we've also seen more murmurs on the Rodgers front that he himself wants to be the highest paid quarterback, which would look something like a $50 million a year contract. And in a vacuum, of course, back-to-back MVP, you can make the case that Aaron Rodgers deserves to be the highest paid quarterback. But the problem is it's a salary cap sport. And the last time a quarterback has won a Super Bowl with over 13% of the salary cap has been the 90s. So it's been a very long time. Again, deserving, but most of the argument around Rodgers leaving or not has been the quote unquote disrespect after the Jordan Love signing or his Jordan Love draft pick. Now it's starting to seem like it's about money, which kind of comes off as Aaron Rodgers talking out both sides of his mouth. On one hand, hey, I want to be the highest paid player in the league. On the other hand, I want you to build a team around me that's good enough to compete, which is hard to do, again, with the current league structure. So my question is, can the Packers afford to make this deal, or can they afford not to make this kind of deal?
I think you don't. I think you can't afford to make that kind of a deal. I think the Packers put themselves into the position that they wanted to after last offseason, where they reworked his deal to bring him back for at least 2 more years this past year. And then if both sides agree, to come back for this year. And the front office isn't stupid. They know all of those things. I mean, exactly what you were saying was you can't have all of these high paid contracts everywhere. And then Aaron Rodgers wants to get one final payday before he rides off into the sunset. I don't necessarily know how much I put into those reports, because for me, it sounds like a lot more like Aaron Rodgers is deciding whether or not to really just play out this one more year or retire. That's really the rumblings that it sounds like is. So I think it's for him more so he's trying to decide whether or not that, however much, I think it's upwards of $30 million for this year, that I think it's $26 million he's guaranteed for this year, if that's worth it for him to come back for one more year. If that is true, though, that he wants that kind of money to come back for one more year, I think that's insane. And I think if you're the Packers, you say either retire, we trade you, or we're ready to move on with Jordan Love and we'll figure things out. I mean, plenty of teams have shown, the 49ers showed, even with a slightly above average quarterback play, you can win, you can make it pretty deep. And so the Packers, I think, have faith that they can do that with the rest of the team built out. And so it's really just now, does Aaron want to buy in on the deal that he's at right now?
Well, so how do you feel about Jordan Love as the possible next quarterback of the Green Bay Packers? Because I know it's been 2 years now. there hasn't been a lot of necessarily people in the Jordan Love is going to be amazing camp. So I ask you, what do you think about the situation with Jordan Love?
I mean, I'm fully on board with Jordan Love if he becomes the future of my team. I think we've seen glimpses of what he can do. I think given a full off season, given the full reins, everything behind him, I think his floor is average to slightly above average. He can be a Trent Dilfer. He can be that kind of a quarterback if you put the right pieces around him. And his ceiling is hopefully it's another Aaron Rodgers or even just above average quarterback. If it comes down to this next season that he's the quarterback, this team has been built fairly well around him. The coaching staff has been built around him. The offense fits his play style very well, that it's really hard for him not to have success. And so I would be more surprised if he came out and, absolutely fell on his face. Like I said, I'm okay with it if he's the quarterback moving forward. I trust this front office. They've proven me and a lot of other people wrong time and time again with high round draft picks, Rashawn Gary, AJ Dillon. They've shown that they do their homework and that, it's not just, willy-nilly up there. So I trust what he can do talent wise, and I trust more so in this team and this offense that's been built around him to give him the tools to succeed if that is what happens next year.
So in a win now mode, like the Packers are with this team, if Jordan Love is starting for the Packers in 2022, are they still the favorites in the NFC North?
Yes, I definitely think so. The Vikings still have Kirk Cousins, but they are going to be dealing with a lot of similar cap issues, like real cap casualties, like cutting guys left and right that they just aren't going to be able to keep around. The Lions are trying to build something, but we still haven't seen anything. They still don't have a quarterback. The Bears are a team that slightly worries me, but they still haven't shown that they've been able to build around Justin Fields and really find that similar kind of defense that they had a couple of years ago. This team should still be the favorites. I don't think it's necessarily as big of a lock as it has been in years past, but the thing is, I don't think you need it to be. If it's Jordan Love as the quarterback, and you get into the playoffs at 10-7 or, whatever it is, you give yourself the chance, and that's all you can ask for with the Packers. And so it might not be the next couple of years that the Packers contend with Jordan Love as quarterback, but they can still be in the mix. They'll still be able to make noise. And they'll still be in the playoffs.
All right. To close it out here, I do have one more off tangent point, because you were speaking to the number one member of the AJ Dillon fan club over here. So I would like to throw out right before we head off here. Did the Packers make a mistake re-signing Aaron Jones, and why should AJ Dillon be the number one running back for the Packers going forward?
Oh, AJ Dillon should definitely be the number one running back moving forward. I think losing him in the second half of that 49ers game really changed the outcome of it, because they moved away from the running game. We've seen it time and time again. So he's really a guy that they've built that offense around, and you can see that in the second half of the season. Did they make a mistake signing Aaron Jones? I don't think so, because I think they needed that kind of talent. They still needed that, and it created a dynamic in that offense that they just didn't have anywhere else. And, if it comes down to bite them back in a year or two, then so be it. They've been able to rework stuff. If they need to eat it on a running back deal the last 2 years, I think that's okay. But Aaron Jones is still a top 15, top 10 running back in the league. And they were looking at the fact of losing him and having Jamal Williams and AJ Dillon into this past season. You sign Aaron Jones, you've got a double-headed monster back there. It worked for this year. It can probably work again for one more year. And after that, I think they're okay if they take a little bit of a bath on it.
Hey, Kyle, stop disrespecting Aaron Jones. He helped me win fantasy titles, my friend. So, stop it with the disrespect. But anyway, showing all the respect to the brand new Pop, Dan Kotnik. So thank you again for coming on, man. Obligatory plugs. Give us all the plugs where you can find your content.
Yeah. Our show, Lombardi's Bar on Game On Wisconsin. We take a little bit of a break during the off season, but every Wednesday during the season at 8:30 Eastern, 7:30 Central on the Game On Wisconsin YouTube channel. Check out all of our stuff over at Game On Wisconsin as well. We've got tons of other shows, podcasts, writing, pieces like that. So yeah, check us out all over there. We do a lot of great stuff over there.
All right, man. Once again, thank you for coming on. Slumpbusters, go ahead and check out Dan and all his content for once we get into the season, especially if you're a big time Packers fan. At Slumpbuster Podcast on IG for us, at Slumpbuster Pod on Twitter. Juju Talk Sports, Kyle Ledbetter. Stay safe, happy, and healthy, and we will see you next time.